And so we are moving into this series this month, Back to Basics. And over the course of the month, we will really just sort of walk through what are the 5 basic principles that give us the ability to live the better life. The first basic principle is what? Let me come on this side because they don't know nothing on that side. And I want you to just say it real loud. No. You blew your shot. You missed your opportunity. Let me come over here with the people who know. The first basic truth principle is, all right. The second basic truth principle is, okay. The third basic truth principle is, y'all still don't seem like y'all know over here. The fourth basic truth principle is practicing the presence. I'm gonna help you. And the fifth basic truth principle is the law of demonstration. So over the course of this month, we will really just sort of walk through each of these principles week by week so that we can revisit and re-examine the practical element of the principle. Yeah? See, because the principles are intended to be systematic tools by which we, through every thought and every feeling, give ourselves an opportunity to live our best life, right? The principle is not intended for me to know it and be able to say it and sound heavy and deep when I say it, right? Saying it without living it, or saying that there is a divine presence in me, but feeling like I am unworthy is inconsistent. Does that make sense? And so what we want to do over these next 3 weeks is just reconnect or remember what these principles are so that we can re-equip ourselves with the opportunity to live the life we are designed and destined to live. Is that all right? Yes. See, there is power in knowing that God is omnipresent or everywhere evenly present. There is power in knowing that humankind or mankind is divine. Right? And that, by show of hands, how many of you know some men who don't appear to be too divine? By show of hands, how many of you know some women who don't appear to be too divine? By show of hands, how many of you know that the Christian metaphysician is committed to seeing beyond what appears so that they can see the truth of what is? Right? That's the power in understanding the principle. And so what we want to do today is start at the first basic truth principle, this notion that there is the omnipresence of God. Is that all right? And so when we talk about God being omnipresent, or really when we talk about God, I want to begin here, because when we talk about God, the key word in talking about God is what? Not God, but talk. Yeah? The key word in when we talk about God is the talk. And so even in the lessons that we will hear over the course of this month and today, as a matter of fact, the talk or the words that I use to describe the infinite are inadequate to capture all that God is. And so if you hear some words that challenge the way you have previously conceptualized God, I want to just encourage you to just take a breath and inhale and exhale, because it's okay. Is that all right? Because even the words that I say are not the beginning and ending of what God is. Right? My words are limited when it comes to being able to capture the infinite and the eternal, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. But I don't have to be able to capture all of it to be in the flow with it. Are you with me? And so I want us to just begin with the understanding that it's okay wherever you are, but be willing to come up. Is that all right? And so these principles, as I said, provide us a systematic approach to life and to living. But I also want to begin here because as we're going to talk about it over these next few weeks, I am teaching this from the perspective of a Christian metaphysician. I think that's important. I'm teaching from the perspective of a Christian metaphysician. Christian in that we are talking about the principles and tenets of Christianity, but from the metaphysician standpoint. Meaning that I am wanting us to consider these lessons not on the face of how they are presented, but from the metaphysician's perspective that is above or beyond what is appearing. Are you with me? So when we talk about thinking or looking or viewing from the metaphysical standpoint, we are saying that our commitment is to look beyond or above what does appear. Are you with me? See, because if I say to you that God is everywhere and God is all and all is in God, you invariably will do like I did the first time I heard it and say, well, I know there are some sure enough things that don't appear to be in. I just left somebody who couldn't possibly be connected to. Are you with me? And so I want to challenge you to recalibrate that perspective. Say recalibrate. I want to challenge you to just recalibrate that perspective and to give yourself an opportunity to see it or consider it from beyond or from above what appears. Is that all right? When we talk about being metaphysical Christians or Christian metaphysicians, we are saying that we are those who are skilled in the science of being. What does that mean? A lot of fancy words. What does it mean to be skilled in the science of being? Let me give you a practical example of someone who was skilled in the science of being. If you remember the story of the crucifixion, where all of these people that Jesus was just teaching are now throwing rocks at him and pulling on him, and everybody's coming down on the person who was just teaching him, the person who just blessed them, now they don't have no regard for. And so even though just moments ago Jesus was pouring into their life, now because the mindset has shifted, the person who was just a blessing now is somehow my enemy. And so these people who he just cared for, people who he just nurtured, people who he just prayed with, people who got the extra drink when he turned the water into wine, you know when you're about to leave the party because it's the cutoff? You get more party time because more wine come out? That's a whole new party. That Jesus just made it lit. And so the people he just helped are now a part of crucifying him. But because Jesus was skilled in the science of being, or because he was skilled, or because I said to you during the dream series, you know you have a skill when you can reproduce or do a thing over and over and over again. He was skilled in the science of being, meaning that he understood who God was and he understood who he was, and so consequently he understood who the people who were crucifying him were. And because he was skilled in the science of being, he was able to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. See, when you understand, when you're skilled in the science of who God is, and when you're aware in the science of who you are, and when you can call on that in some of the most dire situations, and you can bring yourself back to the undergirding truth that you know, then you are skilled in the science of being. Then you are a practicing metaphysician. Are you with me? And so Jesus was able to bring himself to the place where the people who are trying to harm me, Father, I want you to forgive them. Sometimes that's a big ask. Are you with me? And so I'm saying that for us here, there is an opportunity to bring ourselves back to the challenge or the call of the metaphysical Christian to see beyond what is happening, to see beyond what is presenting itself, and to reconnect ourselves to the truth so that we can be girded in what is, not in what appears. Are you with me? And so then, when we understand that there is power in being skilled in the science of being, when we understand the challenge in being an explorer of self, then we're ready to move. Are you ready to move? Are you sure? All right. And so then our topic today is the omnipresence of God. And we restate that this way. We say everything that exists or ever will exist is pressed out of the body of God, God's substance, in different forms of manifestation. And since the nature of God is absolute good, there can be no evil in reality. So then it really, if I understand this principle, then I really don't have a problem with the guy who sits in the White House number 45. I want to keep, let me see if I can get it there. Let me see if I can get it there. Because while his policies are intended to take you back, the omnipresent God is always pulling you forward. And while they think that there is power in other principalities, what I'm going to tell you in a minute is that there is only one presence and one power, and that is God, the good, omnipotent. And so when you understand who you are and whose you are, you absolutely get out and you rock the boat, but you don't let how the boat turns out rock you. So you have to be able to stand in the truth that you know, particularly when what shows up is inconsistent with what you've been praying for. I wish I could tell you that life is sweet once you say yes to this mode of thinking. I wish I could tell you that nothing else happens to you. All of the weeds in your lawn turn into roses and give out good, fresh aroma when you start to study this. I wish I could tell you, Rose, that the people who are in your life all start to change and start to treat you like they got some sense when you come into this. I wish I could tell you that the next time you go to work, they're going to call you into the office and give you a promotion and a raise when you come into this. I wish I could tell you that when you come into this, you're going to hang your shingle out and the people are going to rush into your business. But you want to know what I've learned? That being in this does not prevent the dirt from piling up on my windshield when I drive. It happens to my windshield just like it happens to the windshield of the Muslim, and to the windshield of the Baptist, and to the windshield of the Pentecostal, and to the windshield of the atheist, because life has a way as you drive through it of putting stuff on your view of life. And so it does not mean that you won't have diagnosis, but it does mean you have a mind so set and an approach by which to go through it. It does not mean that relationships won't break down, but it does mean that you have a mindset and an approach by which to go through it. It does not mean that bank accounts won't empty out and sometimes the people gonna call you and you will change your voice. You know what I mean? I wish I could tell you that it would preclude you from that, but it doesn't. It simply gives you a mooring and a foundation and a grounding and an approach by which to work through what life presents to you. Are you with me? And so we want to make sure that we understand this idea of the omnipresence of God. See, when you understand the idea of the omnipresence of God, you also reconnect to the realization that no matter what you do, you are always immersed in the divine. Say, I am immersed in the divine. And you are immersed in the divine whether you think you are immersed in it or not. As a matter of fact, the truth of the matter is there is no way to not be immersed in it. There is no way to be separated, truly separated from God, even if I want to be. So whenever I find myself working through this feeling of loneliness, maybe this is not you. But if you know someone who struggles with the sense that they are lonely, it is not because they are alone. It is because they are in some way disconnected from the realization that God is everywhere evenly present. There was a study done not long ago. And in this study, in the research, they suggested that the sense of loneliness is growing in this country. And the study, there was another study done by the American Council of Life Insurance. And they reported that the loneliest groups right now are college students, right? So all of this activity and people everywhere. And yet somehow our students are carrying a sense of loneliness based upon the research. They said the second group that was on the list were people who were divorced. They said the group after that were people who were on welfare. Then they said the group after that was single mothers. And then finally, the group that they said had the next greatest sense of loneliness were the people who had been on the planet the longest. But the point that was sought to be made was that people, we can carry a sense of loneliness even though we are always connected to the presence of God. So then, if I am never alone, I have to remind myself that I can't be lonely. See, there may not be someone with a physical presence, my goodness, but sometimes there is nobody that you can call to get what you need. Sometimes the only place you can get what you need is to not go outside, but to go inside. Sometimes the only place where you can reconnect to the realization of the truth that is not by looking at what is not showing up, but by turning within and recognizing the abundance of what is there. And if God be for you, what can be against you? God is always present with us. God is everywhere evenly present. Not only is God everywhere evenly present, God is the only presence there is everywhere. Listen, I want you to take that with you. I want you to take that with you. The next time you have a difficulty or beef with somebody. Anybody know what beef is? The next time you have that, I want you to remember that not only is God everywhere evenly present, but God is also the only presence everywhere. See, if I can, why is that important? Why is that important? If I can bring myself back to the realization when something appears. See, if I can identify and recognize the truth when something appears, something as minor and insignificant as an argument. See, if I can bring it back on the backside of the argument with our opinions, then I can bring it back on the backside of an empty pocket. I can bring it back on the backside of an empty diagnosis. See, if I can do it in one thing, I can do it in all things. Are you with me? And so if I can see clear through the truth here, I can see clear through the truth everywhere. Because God is everywhere, evenly present, meaning that I'm committed to seeing God everywhere in all things. Are you with me? How do you see God everywhere in all things? Let's see how the master teacher saw it. The master teacher, Jesus, was someone who was skilled in the science of being. Did I say that? How did Jesus see God in everything? Someone came up to him, and they were really sort of building him up. right? You have to be mindful when people build you up. Earl, they were really building him up. Someone said to him, good teacher. Now listen, when it comes to the work that you do as a good teacher, if someone calls you good teacher, it's okay to stand in the realization and awareness of good teacher. But because he was also skilled in the science of being, when someone said to him, good teacher, he said, why callest thou me? Man, I need y'all to get in the class. So I'm trying to lead you to it. So I was saying he's a good teacher. And then I said, he said, why callest thou me? Come on, work with me. The holiday is not until tomorrow. It's class today. Holiday tomorrow, class today. You with me? Yes. Holiday tomorrow, class today. Y'all making brother work too hard at it. Get with me, rock with me now. All right, and I completely lost my train of thought. But I got it back. I got it back. And so Jesus is coming to himself outside of himself. He says, why callest thou me good? Right? And he says, the only one that's good is the Father. Yeah? So then how do you, if we follow the example of the master teacher, how do I give myself an opportunity to see God in everything? How do I give myself an opportunity to see God in every exchange? How do I give myself an opportunity to look beyond the appearance? We can do it as simply as the master teacher did it, and remember that even in the midst of the word of encouragement or the challenge or the difficulty, I can ask myself, why callest thou me whatever? The only one that's good is God. Why is that important? Because if you know that God is good and you know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, then everything that happens to you has to be good. And I know, listen, I hear you, I feel you. There's some stuff happening to us, Rev, that ain't good. I feel you, I'm with you, I got you. Yes, I hear you. There are some things that I work through, you can't tell me they're good. There's some ways I've been touched, you can't tell me that's good. There's some ways I've been attacked, you can't tell me that's good. There's some ways I've been handled, you can't make me believe that is good. And you know what? I'm not trying to make you believe it's good. You know what I am trying to do? I'm trying to help you see God carrying you through, even as you go through it. I'm simply trying to remind you that even in the storm, God was there. I don't want you to believe that something that hurts that badly is good. I'm not trying to convince you of that. You don't have to believe that. As a matter of fact, I like one of our great teachers say, you don't have to believe anything you can't demonstrate. But you know what you can demonstrate? Your realization that God is still in the midst. Your realization that God still got you, even as you go through, because you know something else, you're going to go through again. And when you go through it again, you know what I want you to be able to hold on to. Just like God brought me through that time, God will bring me through this time. I want you to know that God is always in it. You can call it what you want to call it. Just remember that God is in it. God is always present in it. And you deserved better. They should have known how to deal with you. They should have kept their mouth off of you. Come on now. They should have saw the value in what you had to bring. And if they didn't, they didn't. God still got you. God still got me. Are you with me? Are you with me? Our second statement is that God is omniscient. God is omniscient or omniscience, meaning, so God as omniscience is not only all-knowing, but the source of all knowledge. Are you with me? So God as omniscience is not only all knowledge, but all knowing, but the source of all knowledge. God is omniscience. God is omniscient and omniscience. Are you still with me? There was a story told by Elizabeth Elliot, and she said there were these two explorers who came to visit her. And she said when they came to visit her, they had all of their tools, they had all of their backpacks, and they were going to climb the Andes. And she said they just had a couple of important questions for her, and they just wanted quick questions. They wanted quick markers. They wanted some quick insight into what they ought to do if they get to this point and what they ought to do if they get to that point. They just were in a hurry to get on the journey. And she later on remarked that sometimes when you are on the journey, it's not enough to have a guidepost. It's not enough to have some insight. It's not enough to have a quick yes or no, or to get some quick answers to the question that you have. Sometimes when you're on the journey, it's not just enough to know the way. Sometimes you also want to have the guide. Are you with me? And so when it comes to omniscience, I suggest to you that in your prayer time and in your meditation time, it's not enough to just figure out the answer to the immediate situation that you're going through. When you are in your prayer time and your meditation time, when you find yourself on the other side of the door in your closet, it's not just enough to pray about this thing that you're working through in the moment. Whenever you find yourself in your quiet time, I want to encourage you to not leave that moment unless you make sure you take the guide with you. Don't just get the answer from God. I want to invite you to walk in the God presence, because when you walk with the guide, the guide knows the way. See, there's one thing to be connected to the mind of God. There's another to be walking with him, or with it, or with her. You want to be walking with the guide. This is a song that choir sings, I walk with the King. You want to be able to walk with the guide, because the beautiful thing about the guide is the guide not only knows the way, the guide knows what's around the corner. There's power in being able to walk by faith if you know that there's something on your good side around the corner. Are you with me? So then omniscience reminds us that God is the source of all knowledge, and God as the source of all knowledge always meets us right where we are. God as the source of all knowledge always meets us right where we are. Listen, you don't have to be a better version of yourself in this moment to be connected to God as the God in your life. You don't have to be better in this moment. All you have to do is know that God knows the way in, through, and as you. Are you with me? So when we talk about God as omniscience, we're talking about the universal principle of mind in action. When we talk about being connected to God as omniscience, we're talking about recognizing that if God has the answer, then I need to sync my mind up and my feelings up with what God is already trying to say to me. Are you with me? When I understand God as mind action, I recognize that God does not make choices for me. No matter how much I pray, no matter how much I ask, no matter how much I beg, God does not make choices for me. Because the way God designed you so that you can make choices based upon what you receive from God. So God doesn't have to make the choice for you if you understand what God is saying through you. Are you with me? And so you can come up off those knees hoping that God has heard you. God heard you before you asked. And not only did God hear you before you asked, God answered before you asked. Now watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. If God answered before you asked, and what you asked is already fulfilled, what's the difference? The only difference between the fulfillment of what I've been asking for and the manifestation of it is where I am in relation to it. And if and when I can get my mind in alignment with what God wants for me or what God intends to do through me, then I have an opportunity to experience the good desires of my heart. I just gave it to you. I did. I just gave it to you. I was talking with someone not long ago, and one of our people here, and they shared with me how they were working on this new project, new book project. And they shared how they couldn't get clear. That was the word they used. How they couldn't get clear on what it was they were trying to do and what it was they were trying to say. And then they said that what they did was, out of some conversations, they got clear on the title. And then they said, out of some meditation, they got clear on what they needed to ask for. And out of what they got clear on with the title and what they got clear on what they asked for, they got clear on what they needed to do. And I submit to you right here and right now, if you can get clear on what it is you need and you can get clear on what it is you want, the omniscience of God can't help but flow through you as the light to provide clarity to wherever it is you're trying to go or get to. So stop pretending like you don't know and get in the flow of what God is already doing to you and start to move in powerful ways. And if you do, what you will find is that before you called, I had already answered. Omnipotence is God as all power, yeah? And when we understand God as all power, we recognize that the power of God is unlimited and unfailing. When we recognize that God is omnipotent and we understand that God is Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, there is no part of my connection to God that leaves me powerless. Are you with me? And so if I am never powerless, I am always at the choice of being in the flow of what God wants to manifest through me. Yeah? So then there is power in understanding how to be connected to power. One of the ways we connect ourselves to power is to recognize that the creative power, Martin Woods, flowing through me. How do you know you're powerful? Because you're here. How do you know you're powerful? Because God called you. How do you know you're powerful? Because you showed up. And when you show up, you never show up without what you need. And so I just want to invite you on this morning, right here and right now, to reconnect to the power that you are. You have authority and dominion over everything that concerns you. And I want to challenge you to get up out of this small sense of self and to stand up in the larger, more powerful you. Because when you stand in your power, what you will find is that mountains start to move. When you stand in your power, what you find is that shackles start to break. When you stand in your power, what you find is that the things that you thought were limitations were only small hills to help you grow the muscle and develop the strength and hone your power so that you can focus it in a powerful way. Here is what I know about you. You have power beyond measure to create a life that works for you. And if there's something in your life that's not working, stop doing it the same old way, hoping you're going to get a different result. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Wisen up, connect to the omniscience. Wisen up, connect to the power. Wisen up and connect to the presence of God and watch your life take off.